Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paul Drexler.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Look, in the spirit of transparency, I wanted to show you the new company car for the president of the CBI, and later on we'll be advertising a vacancy for a driver. But I have a couple of candidates here today, one of them well known to you, Crofty. He's going to interview one of the leading lights of F1, Clare Williams. I know she's really excited to be here today. She's going to be interviewed. She'll then be doing a Q&A. So please, when you ask questions, say how pleased you are to meet her, say who you are, and she'll enjoy the conversation. So a very warm welcome, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I trust lunch was very pleasant. Thank you very much for the introduction. And you mentioned the car, 20 million, includes my 10%. If you want to drive next season, I know people who know people, get your people to talk to my people, yeah? Excellent. Welcome along to a little chat about Formula One, which to some of you might just be a sport that takes place every other Sunday afternoon, but to me and to Clare Williams, it's our life. Clare lives and breathes Formula One and is immersed within the Williams Formula One team. I live and breathe Formula One and shout about it, quite literally, on Sky Sports on a Sunday afternoon. But it's not just a sport. It's something that benefits the British and global economy to the tune of billions of pounds year after year after year. And it's something we're very, very good at in Britain. And it's something that for many, many years, the name of Williams has been synonymous with success. Don't take my word for it. Have a little look at our video.
We all have one common purpose. That's to try to put together sufficiently good racing cars which are sufficiently reliable to compete in and win at Formula One racing.
Racing is in our DNA. It is our passion. We have 500 people who work tirelessly to get our 2 race cars to the grid on a Sunday afternoon and with a view to winning races.
We've had some great successes over the past 4 decades, with 16 World Championship wins and over 100 wins to our name.
Over the last few years, we've been putting in place an ambitious new strategy to move Williams back to the front of the grid. We've been investing in people, in technology, in processes, and making some real dramatic changes to the organisation. And we're starting to see the results.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for a lady who pretty much lives her life in the fast lane 365 days a year. From the Williams F1 team, Deputy Team Principal Clare Williams. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have a sofa.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
I match the sofa.
This is a bit weird, really. Clare and I have known each other for the best part of 10 years. When we first met, I was a novice and knew nothing about Formula One. Clare was the communications officer at Williams. I'm still a novice. You're now Deputy Team Principal. You know everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I know everything. That's why I'm only deputy. I'm not full team principal yet. But thank you very much for inviting us here today. It's a real pleasure to be in amongst such amazing talent in Britain.
With your dad starting up Williams and being the racer that he was, racing and Formula One's always been in your blood. So to be Deputy Team Principal, was that always something you envisaged for your life?
No, I'm asked this question regularly. I think everyone has this expectation that this was a predestined role for me at Williams. It absolutely wasn't. I wasn't brought up in my family to ever think that I would take over the team one day, it was always kind of go off and do your own thing. And I've been at Williams now for 13 years, but whenever the role came up and my dad was asked whether I could have the job of a junior press officer in his race team, he said, no bloody way. But we lobbied him and we managed to get me ensconced in the communications team. And I've been there ever since, so hopefully I'm doing something right. He hasn't fired me yet, anyway.
He shouldn't fire you, because since you actually got the job, the team that were languishing a little bit have suddenly been on something of an upward curve. It's been 2 great seasons.
Yeah, we have. I took on the deputy team principal role in 2013. And off the back of that year anyway was a particularly bad year. But prior to that, we'd had a few quite upsetting and disappointing years for Williams. We're a team that have won 16 world championships over the course of our 40 decades in our sport. But we had kind of entered into a period of decline at Williams, and 2013 was really the culmination of that. And we finished that year in 9th in the Constructors' Championship out of only 10 teams. And so we really realised that we had to do a lot of work internally to the team if we were to turn our fortunes around. And I'm a firm believer that unless you evoke change, you don't get change in your business. And so we put in place a significant overhaul strategy to look at every area of our racing team and our business as a whole in order to turn things around. Personally, growing up with Williams and knowing, the team that we are and how much affection, not only my family and, the rest of the people that work for us, but, we have a lot of fans in the UK and globally. It was so important to me personally not to allow Williams to go into a spiral of decline that we were never able to recover from. So we did put in place a big strategy to look at every area of the business and to turn it around. And I'm really pleased to say that in 2014 we had effected some change and we came 3rd in the championship last year. And to this point now in the season, we've got 2 races to go, but we're still running 3rd in the Constructors, which I think is a great achievement considering the sport that we're in, the budgets of other teams that we're fighting against. It's a great achievement for Williams.
To put it into context, in 2013, I think the team scored something like 5 points. Yep. In 2014, you scored 320 points. That is something of a turnaround. And as you say, to finish 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. Now, from the outside, you had the Mercedes-Benz engine, and that was the best engine that season and currently this season. So was it just a case of buying the best power unit, sticking it in the back of the car, and that's where success came from? Or what else made that success?
No, I think if you ask the 500 odd people that we have working at Williams, if it was just about the amazing Mercedes power unit that we have, which, give it its credit, it's the best engine in Formula One. If you asked anyone at Williams, was it all about the engine, I think a lot of people would be very upset because a lot of people have to put in a huge amount of hard work. This isn't a 9-to-5 business in any sense of the word. We expect our employees to go well above and beyond normal expectations. And it's all about the chassis that you produce in Formula One. You can't just race with a power unit. It's about everything else. Every other element of your business in Formula One has to be working in absolute harmony if you're to achieve success.
And that 500-strong workforce, did you have to make major changes to that workforce? Because here you are languishing in the doldrums, now you're up in 3rd place. Does that signify a huge amount of staff turnover?
We were lucky at the end of 2013 when we had our really bad season. We really pride ourselves on a really strong people culture, and that's all come from Frank and how he has run and operated the business and treated his staff over the years. So we didn't have, fortunately, high turnaround despite our poor season. Inevitably, you might expect that, but we didn't. They stuck by us. And that was through, I think, strong communications internally as to what we were doing within the business in order to turn things around. And people bought into that and believed it. And were really, they were behind us, and we needed everybody to be behind us if we were to effect change. But we looked at every area. It was as much about people as the resource that we have at Williams. We've been very lucky over the course of our time in the sport that Frank and his partner in engineering, Patrick, have always put into the business any profit that we've made going racing and built up our resource and our capabilities, our technical capabilities in-house. But the key highlights, I suppose, of our transformation was about bringing in a raft of new senior engineering personnel to complement the talent that we already had in the business, choosing the Mercedes power unit over the Renault, bringing in a new driver in Felipe Massa, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid today, to partner Valtteri Bottas, who's an amazing talent, and then also the commercial element as well. We are an independent racing team. We've got some wonderful partners that sponsor us and in effect keep us racing. We only have 2 and a little bit of revenue source at Williams. So what allows us to go racing is the money that we get in prize fund money from Mr. Ecclestone's prize fund pot, and then the sponsorship money. And as a team, we're racing every year on about 110, 115 million sterling, 50% of which we have to generate in sponsorship income. So as a package, we had to look at every element of that and make sure that we were operating at the best of our capabilities. And I'm pleased to say that obviously we did a good job in 2014, but at Williams, we're here to win. We're not here to come third or second. It's all about winning, and we want to win again. We've had great success in the past, 16 World Championships, but we aren't a team that's happy just to come third and to let the Ferraris and the Mercedes of this world beat us.
To put it into context, 115 million sterling a season for Williams. The teams that you're fighting against, Mercedes and Ferrari, the 2 top teams at the moment, I take it they have a little bit more in the kitty to go racing with.
They have a significantly more greater budget than us. So they're racing on about 300 million a year, the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes. They're ploughing that much into it. And that isn't even taking into consideration the $500 million that these manufacturers are putting into the new power unit technologies that we have in Formula One. So it's an expensive sport to go racing in, and it's a scary industry, I suppose, because every year, part of my job is to make sure that we have that income to go racing. And we have to rely on sponsors looking at our sport and making sure that, putting in 5, 10 million, 15 million, whatever it is they may be putting in, that they get the return on their investment. Fortunately, we have a very strong sponsorship platform in Formula One that does work for many businesses.
I can see now why you rely on the people at Grove at the base to do what you do, not so much the money that you've got at your disposal. But is Formula One also a sport and a business whereby rewards come very, very quickly, and therefore it's easy to motivate the staff? The minute you get one small success on the track, people come into work on the Monday with a new spring in their step, as it were.
Yes, it is. It's hugely motivating. Everyone sees our success or our failure. It's very unusual as a business where the 100 million people that watch us go racing every Grand Prix weekend, they get to see success and failure. But equally, as much as that success is hugely motivating for your team, it can also be incredibly demotivating for your team as well. And it's very difficult to pick your team up. These are really challenging environments that we go and race in across the world. We've just come back from Mexico, which was a new venue on our calendar, which is fantastic. But it was, for personnel, the extremes that we have to operate within. I think we had about 16 people down with bugs over the weekend, which doesn't help when they're having to do a 2.5-second pit stop.
Or maybe it does. They're quite desperate to get back into the garage. I don't know.
Maybe that's very true. But so the culture piece and the motivational piece is a really critical part of any management group in a Formula One team. And I think it's a great example when we were having such a bad season in 2013, week in, week out. We were asking our guys to go and do what they had to do to put in the maximum effort, and then to only come home in 15th and 16th places every weekend was a real challenge for us. But fortunately, we have a great culture, a great human culture at Williams that we're able to ride out the rough and look forward to the smooth when it comes.
And where do you get your staff from? If you're looking to expand, if you're looking to bring in new engineers, new communications officers, talent for the future, where do Williams cast their net?
Everywhere. We are obviously a global sport, and as a Formula One team, you want the best of everything, whether that's resource, technology, but predominantly people. For me, having a great racing team is fundamentally founded on the people that you have operating within your business. So you have to have the best. Whenever you don't have the budgets to go and attract those people, you have to create a different attraction for them to come to you as a team. But we look everywhere, and one of the main focuses for us at the moment, and is, I think, a critical conversation in the UK today, is all about trying to encourage the younger generation to come into the roles that we predominantly need in Formula One, and that's around technology and engineering. So we have 3 programs at the moment that we've recently launched, going into schools and try and encourage children to focus on STEM subjects so that they could then go into university and study the degrees that we are looking for when we're recruiting candidates into our race team. That's a really big part of our CSR program at the moment is education and across the board. So going and talking to boys as well as girls is really critical for us.
You work with Formula One in schools, and I know the F1 in schools team are here today and have a display for you all to see. But is it at that level, do you have to go into the schools to identify talent now? Is that where you can steal a march maybe on the competition?
Yeah, because I think as much as, racing drivers are starting, their careers in karting at the age of 3 and 4 years old now, if you're going to go and study aerodynamics at university or mechanical engineering at university, you're going to be thinking about that and what you need to get into a university at a very young age, from GCSEs up to A-levels and then to get into uni. So we have to go into schools at very grassroots level, primary, secondary and tertiary education. And we have ambassadors at Williams, STEM ambassadors, that go out and talk to schools across the UK to achieve that.
Fantastic. We have a question from our audience. Tobias Mills from the Manpower Group. Where are you, Tobias Mills? If he's not here, I have got his question. Obviously, lunch was that good. Tobias is still eating. Well, when you come back from dessert, Tobias, you can come and... Sorry?
He's having a pit stop.
Pit stop. No. Hang on. No, 2.5 seconds has gone. He's late. Tobias said that he's read recently how Williams seek partners to help you innovate. Your relationship with BT being an example on that one. You see BT on the side of the car. But what tools and strategies do you at a senior management team deploy to create and encourage innovation at an individual level?
It's Formula One. It's all about innovation, as much as some of you may think that Formula One is just about 2 cars going round and round on a Sunday afternoon. It's everything that goes on behind the scenes in order to make that car the quickest that it can be and drive performance through the car at every level. So for us, if we don't innovate in Formula One, then we lose the war at every Grand Prix that we go to. Formula One is a development war at the end of the day, and what technologies you can create within the teams that you have. And you're always trying to push the envelope within some very stringent regulations that we have, and quite immovable regulations as well. So for us, we always encourage every single person that works at Williams to innovate, and we do that through empowerment. And enabling them to go about doing their job without a load of bureaucracy, a load of middle managers trying to come in and you've got to have sign-off for this, approval for that. Everybody has their head, so to speak, in order to drive innovation. And inevitably, that kind of process, the way that we work, works really well within the environment that we're having to operate in.
Innovation is something that Williams have set a standard for on the racetrack for many, many years now. You mentioned Patrick Head, who along with your father led the team for so many years. And Patrick was responsible for some great aerodynamic breakthroughs in Formula One. But what I've noticed about Williams now is that you're trying to work outside of the racetrack a lot more, and with partners that aren't just stickers on a racing car. Ministry of Defence, for instance, Sainsbury's, you work very closely with them.
We do. Williams racing and Formula One is at our heart. It always has been and it always will be. But in 2009, off the back of the new regulation we had that brought hybrid technologies into our sport, we bought a flywheel business. And off the back of that, we now have Williams Advanced Engineering, which is part of the Williams Group, which fundamentally takes the technologies that we've developed in Formula One and commercializes them. In the beginning, it was very much a case of taking those technologies and transferring them to the wider automotive sectors. So we did projects with Porsche and Le Mans and Audi, etc. But we've now kind of widened our net, and we take those capabilities, and they're pretty much around energy efficiency capabilities. And we work in a variety of different sectors. So we have projects now with defence, aerospace. We have a great project with Sainsbury's and Asda at the moment around aerofoil technology, where we are basically using the capabilities that we have at Williams to work with these supermarkets to recapture the energy lost from the fridges in supermarkets. Everyone knows it's freezing cold in the aisles now when you go to supermarkets. So the technologies that we've developed, we are retrofitting into supermarket shelves in order to recover that energy lost, reuse it, and to make supermarkets a whole lot warmer for their customers. So as much as, when I first, I grew up in Williams and we were all about racing, we now have these wonderful projects that we're doing across different sectors and industries that I never thought we'd be a part of.
So those restrictive regulations in Formula One, or the way that the sport is more centred around energy efficiency and recovery now, actually drive a lot of this as well. You're restricted aerodynamically, but in other areas, it helps you to branch out. Unilever is another partnership you have with the washing powder slurry.
Yes, but this is where innovation is at the heart of our sport and what we do, and has such wide applications. And particularly with our advanced engineering business, it's all about looking at energy efficiency and solutions around that. So there are some great projects, as I said, that we're working on, but it's so critical that Formula One is seen to be doing something other than just, running around a racetrack. And I know a lot of people have the impression that Formula One is a gas-guzzling sport, and it does very little for the environment. I can tell you now that Formula One is a sport that is looking very seriously at the technologies that we can incubate in Formula One, that we can have wider applications for. So, for example, the power unit that we're now running, that has obviously had quite a lot of negative publicity around it, but actually is a hybrid power unit that not only has made our engines a third more efficient, but actually has increased the performance of our race cars. And unfortunately, as a sport, we don't do a particularly great job of blowing our own trumpet and telling the world what we do in Formula One for the greater good.
Any chance that technology can transfer to the road, and I might be able to drive a car that you've helped develop that could go quite fast, get me away from the traffic lights a little speedier in the future?
That will. That is why the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes and Renault and Honda now are in our sport, and they are ploughing billions of dollars in order to develop these power units, because they know that these will then trickle down into their road cars that you and I will drive in the future. But talking about great projects and you driving and getting off the line, we've just developed a car called the CX-75 with Jaguar, which is a phenomenal example of how Formula One can incubate technologies and actually deliver a project twice the speed of a normal road car manufacturer. So the CX-75 is a hybrid supercar that has the power of a Bugatti Veyron, yet the emissions of a Toyota Prius. And we have worked with Jaguar on that. We developed it 3 years ago, and we developed it in 18 months. And is now, if any of you have been to the new James Bond movie, is actually the villain's car in James Bond. And Williams produced 7 prototypes for that film.
It's the one that doesn't end up in the water. Because it's good. But how important is it, though, that you keep F1 at the core of your business? Or will there come a day that Williams expands so much that it doesn't necessarily need Formula One?
No, as I said, racing is in our heart. It's why Frank set up Williams in 1969, and it always will be, as long as there's a Williams family member at the helm. This is what we do, and it's what we love to do. But the advanced engineering piece of our business is a critical part of who we are now. And the plans for that are to grow it. At the moment, it's an £18 million turnover business. It's still embryonic, but we need to grow it. And one of the reasons for doing that, aside for all the energy efficient capabilities that it has, but it also provides a critical revenue stream to keep us racing. So it contributes about 3 or 4 million at the moment to our racing efforts.
What do you think Formula One and working as a Formula One team can mean for the wider business community? What can you teach the wider business community? Put you on the spot here.
No, I think one of the great things that Formula One does is speed, and that's not just on the racetrack, but across all our processes. We go racing 19, 20 times a year, and we have to develop car parts. I think we develop about 50,000 before we go racing, and that's in the space of 3 months. Wow. 135,000 man hours go into taking that car to the test track, and then that process is a continual evolution throughout the course of the year. So, as an example, if a driver has a smash on a Grand Prix, the guys in our manufacturing division will be going, oh my God, I've got to build a new front wing, and that will take me 6 weeks. But actually, the elements involved in building a new front wing are significant that most businesses wouldn't be able to achieve in that timescale. So for me, it's very much about the speed by which we're able to to achieve what we need to achieve in Formula One. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of our partners partner with us in order to try and get learnings in how we operate as a business that they can then take into their businesses and improve their processes internally. Unilever is a great example of that.
But it's that realization that I find fascinating as well, that as a business you can't do everything, that you need to work with partners, not just to attract money, but to attract knowledge and technology and new innovations as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And BT, as you mentioned, is a partner that joined us this year. And as a team that isn't operating on the scale of the budgets that our competitors are, we have to look at alternative means by which we can bring technologies and skills into our team to make us faster. And BT is a great example. They have delivered some WAN connectivity to us, enables us to send data back and forward between our headquarters and the racetrack. The racetrack, we're only allowed about 60 people to work on the cars over the course of a race weekend. And so in order to drive performance and success, we have more people back at base, and they've increased our capabilities around that area. So we can now analyze data within matters of minutes and hours rather than analyzing data over the course of 24 hours. So it's very important for us as an independent team that we have those kinds of partners that can bring skills that we otherwise might not have.
To change the subject a little, women in Formula One, do you see yourself as a standard bearer for what women can achieve in Formula One, or is that something you'd rather not see yourself as?
I've grown up in Formula One. I've been surrounded by blokes all my life. I'm totally desensitized to it. But it is obviously and inevitably a question that I get asked a lot about what's it like being a woman in a man's world. And I never look at it like that. I always, my job here is to do the best job that I can for Williams. And everybody at Williams and the other teams, everybody is there to do the best job they can for the team. And gender really doesn't matter in our sport. And I know that a lot of people look at Formula One and go, it's such a male-dominated sport. We have now more females in our sport than we've ever had before. We actively go out and try and promote gender diversity across some of the education programs, as an example. We were one of the only teams to have a female in our lineup in Susie Wolff, who unfortunately has just recently announced her retirement, but she was with us for 4 years, and if anyone was a trailblazer, it was Susie.
Yeah, first time in 22 years we had a woman driving a car at a Formula One Grand Prix weekend. So where's the next Susie Wolff coming from? Or have you identified her already?
No, I think it's early days, and Susie has said that herself. That and as I said, guys are starting karting at the age of 3 and 4, and unfortunately, as a 3 or 4 year old girl, I think you have other objectives when you're looking at what you want to play with, and it's not probably smelly go-karts. So we have to do a piece of work around encouraging a younger generation to start karting at an early age. But it's not just about racing drivers. There are so many women now coming into Formula One in so many different roles. We've got women in our aerodynamics team, in our design office, at track, looking after the tyres, and it's great to see that gender diversity creeping in across our sport.
Are you still a Formula One fan?
Yes. Can you not tell?
Well, I can. And I find it incredible that you are immersed in all the politics and a lot of the negative side of Formula One, but yet your passion, I think, has probably grown in the last couple of years since you took on the role.
Yeah, I've grown up obviously in Williams, and I love it. Dad was never a dad that came home and left his work in the office. It was around the kitchen table, and we discussed Williams, night after night, and how the team was doing. And I love my team, and it's not just the glamour and all that doesn't interest me. I love the people element of it, and how you can get 500 people to work so passionately and diligently to get your race car to the racetrack on a Sunday afternoon. And success or failure, they keep coming back and they keep doing it. And it is a tough world that we live in. And yes, there are politics, and everyone sees the politics, but the politics is, fun at the end of the day as well. It's just another element of our sport. But for me, the passion is to see, my drivers on the podium at the end of a hard race, and everybody coming together to deliver that result. It's not just about the driver in the cockpit and what he does. There are 500 people behind that driver getting him to that checker flag on a Sunday afternoon, and that is the passion for me.
So what's the biggest chance of this happening next season then? Williams get their latest win, or you get more money from Bernie Ecclestone? What's the hardest out of that?
they're at the top of my to-do list.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think a lot of people are aware of the politics in Formula One, and I think there's a lot of media surrounding how the Formula One income, which is about $1 billion every year, is divided up unequally. But that's a historical element of our sport that we will just leave and just do what we do best, and that's go racing and love going racing. And I hope that win will come next year. That would be an amazing reward for the hard work that Williams has put in for the past 2 years to turn this team around.
Spain 2012 was the last time. I think that win is long overdue. I think on behalf of everyone here, I wish you well. Not just for next season, but for the last 2 races of this season as well, because it's going to rain in Brazil. Anything can happen there. You never know, and Williams have been successful there in the past. Claire, thank you very much for giving up your time today to come and talk to us. Ladies and gentlemen, Clare Williams.